See, but within this same story, you see, we're going to talk about Asar's brother, Set. Now, Set was the jealous brother, according to this story. And he made a plot against his brother. You see, and his brother was to go forward around the world and to uplift the nations of the world with the knowledge. You see, and Set was against his brother and was trying to kill his brother. You see, so he made a preparation. When they sent him off, before he was leaving, there was a big celebration. You see, and Set went to who we call Isis or Set and told her that when Asar returned, that he wanted to have a big feast for him. But all the time he was just taking his measurements, his physical measurements, because he was plotting to kill him. And Set, she could perceive in him. She could see in him and read his mind and knew his intentions. You see, because women, they have a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th sense. They have it. And we brothers got to understand that. You see, sometimes a woman sees what the brother don't see. You see what I'm saying? Because we're talking about a balance here. We're talking about balance. One see, not going to see, the other one got to see. You see? So as a result, Asar was locked down, cast into the Nile, and ended up in Phoenicia somewhere. You see? And so Set had to continue to rule. You see? Now, Set, she watched her husband become neutralized. She watched the husband become neutralized by the enemy. And it made it worse. The enemy was the brother-in-law. You know how painful that is? You know what I'm saying? Everybody say this. You got to watch the ones that's closest to you. You got to watch the ones closest to you. You see? You got to say that. Because a person can't stab you in the back from across the street. Nobody can stab you in the back from across the street. They got to get close to you to stab you. You know what I'm saying? So many years passed, and Set ruled in the absence of her husband. And she held the country together. And there was many plots to even overthrow her. This is a great black African woman we're talking about here. One of the oldest stories, as the legend goes, that one day somebody was cutting down a tree in Phoenicia, and there was a terrible, beautiful smell that came from the tree. And they started to speak about it in different places, and eventually Set heard of it. And when she heard of it, she knew that that was her husband. You know what I mean? When she heard about it. So she took her militia, and she went down there and said, let me go get my husband. And when she got his body, she brought it back, and she honored him. And she hid his body on an island in the Nile River. But Set found out. He heard about it, heard what happened, and went and found the coffin, pried it open, and took Asar's body and chopped it up into 14 pieces and spread his body all out through ancient Kemet or ancient Ethiopia. Spread them all over the place. You see? But Set, she knew. And she said, well, that's all right. That's all right. Because a woman's love for her man was strong enough to reconstitute his body and to put all the pieces back together again. Remember that. So the message to the story, my brother, is that our men have been dissected. We have been dissected by a social program that wants to be sure that we, as black men, are inactive and neutralized. You hear that? So what she did, what did she do? She searched and found all of the pieces of her man. This is a lesson to this story. Found all the pieces of her that made up her man. And her powers that she has as a woman, progenitor of life, she spoke life into her dead husband's body. So what am I saying here? Sisters, you are the only one on this planet that has the power to bring back life to your man. Is this making sense, people? Is this making sense? In other words, what lesson is to be learned here is that Mother Africa knows this fundamental truth. Sisters, don't you know that you have the power to make a change? Once you stand up and know yourself within your true self, you have the power. You have power to turn things around. Yes, you do. She could have given up on her man. After all, he was dead and dissected. You know what I mean? She could have gave up. He was already dead. She could have gave up on her man. But she found all of the pieces except one piece. The one piece that she didn't find, is the most important piece according to what white people say, and to the mind of the white man, and to the black men who have taken on the white man's way of thinking. And they think that you ain't a man if you don't have that one piece. In fact, many of my brothers who are out of control honestly feel that their manhood is wrapped up in their function of their generative organs. That is why there's so much dysfunction. It is really sad when sex becomes a performance for you instead of an act of sharing love with your woman. It's really bad when you have such low self-esteem that the only thing you can identify with is how big your generative, or how whatever your generative organs are. You see what I'm saying? Young black men, you got to wake up and realize you are being programmed by a white society that tells you that you got to do this thing maybe 2-3 times a day in order for a sister to respect you. You don't even know how to hug her, yet you want to plug her. What you say, Fire? 5 minutes? Aye, aye. So remember, Asar, she found every piece but one. But let me tell you how rough the sister was. After breathing life into the body of her man and just rubbing his head, life from her hand brought him back to life. When he comes to life, the energy coming from his wife was so great that Asar looks up to his wife and says, I love you. And he wanted to share love with her, but he couldn't share love with her because his generative organ wasn't there. But his wife looked at him and said, well, that's all right. Just to show him how powerful she is, she transformed herself into a bird and flew over the place where his generative organ was and hovered there and fanned her wings and fanned her wings and fanned her wings over that place, creating the energy until he ejaculated to Asar. And that is where you get the idea or the concept of the first immaculate conception. Rastafari? Now, I know the time is the time, and I have much more to really go into within this reasoning, but I'm going to say this, my brothers and my sisters. The role of Empress Menen, or the role of Rastafari, woman within Rastafari, I really need to look into ourselves and to step up into heights within true blackness as to what we call blackness, you see, and not to embrace and not to strengthen those false Judo-Christian ideals and identities that was forced on us through the result of the chattel slavery and colonialism and imperialism as it relates specifically to our families. You see? As it relates to our families. Because that's where our liberation must start, within our families.